Let us be clear from the outset, without evasion, without ambiguity, and without emotional manipulation. This is not a war between Muslims and Christians. It is not a traditional religious conflict, nor is it an ideological confrontation between neighbors. What is happening in Nigeria is an organized crime, carried out by armed extremist groups against unarmed civilians. People leaving their homes to tend their farms, children heading to school, families entering churches to pray. Not militias, not fighters, not parties to a war. The deliberate conflation of religion with crime is the first victory of terrorism, and the most dangerous service offered to the perpetrator is framing the violence as a religious conflict. The truth is simpler and harsher. There are armed groups that use religion as a slogan, but in reality, they use violence as a tool, fear as a weapon, and impunity as a guarantee. If this were a war of religions, there would be clear front lines. Instead, what we see is this: villages attacked at night, homes set ablaze, and people killed in their sleep. If this were a war, there would be two sides. But here, there is only one side with weapons, and another with prayers, memories, and a fundamental right to life. More dangerous than the killing itself is the normalization of crime. When the world treats massacres as local incidents, or tribal tensions, or complex clashes. No, this is not complex. It is clear. A civilian is killed because he is Christian. A church is burned because it is a church. A village is erased because it has no protection. And in return, no accountability, no serious investigation, no message of deterrence. And here's the question that must be asked out loud. If the victim were not a poor African Christian, would the silence still persist? Condemning a crime does not mean condemning a religion, and remaining silent in the face of crime does not protect coexistence. It destroys it. A Muslim who believes in peace is not complicit in this crime, and a Christian who is killed is not a party to a conflict. The real party is one: armed extremism, which feeds on chaos, grows in a vacuum, and expands in silence. Any discourse that turns a humanitarian tragedy into a religious confrontation is a dangerous discourse, one that serves the perpetrator far more than it serves the victim. What Nigeria needs is not a fatwa, nor a slogan, nor mobilizing rhetoric. What it needs is the rule of law enforced, criminals held accountable, and civilians protected, regardless of their religion. This is not a Christian demand. It is a human one. Because the first casualty in any society that allows the killing of civilians is the very idea of coexistence itself, and silence is not neutrality. Silence is a choice, and choosing silence at the moment of crime is taking its side. These are testimonies and documented reports from international and foreign media outlets on the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, bearing witness to what has been described as a Christian genocide. In Washington, Congressman Riley M. Moore introduced a resolution in the U.S. House of Representatives condemning the ongoing persecution of Christians in Nigeria and supporting President Donald J. Trump's announcement to officially designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. This bold decision is a clear message to the world that the United States will never turn a blind eye to our brothers and sisters in Christ who are being martyred for their faith. This resolution draws attention to the horrific persecution Christians face across Nigeria. 50,000 to 100,000 Christians have been murdered since 2009. At least 7,000 Christians have been killed this year alone, an average of 35 deaths each day. 19,000 churches have been destroyed. Data from Open Doors indicate that more Christians are killed every year in Nigeria than the rest of the world combined. Fox News reported, according to the international watchdog group Open Doors, nearly 70% of all Christians killed for their faith worldwide last year were in Nigeria. The group warns that Boko Haram, Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP, and Fulani militant herders are responsible for most of the bloodshed, often targeting Christian farmers in the country's middle belt. Rights organizations estimate that thousands of believers are murdered every year, while countless others are forced to flee. AP News reported that attacks on churches in Kaduna State led to the abduction of dozens of worshippers, events that drew international criticism over the authorities' response and their failure to protect civilians, particularly Christians, during religious celebrations. According to Open Doors World Watch List 2026, Nigeria accounts for approximately 72% of Christians killed worldwide for their faith, out of the total deaths recorded in 50 countries between October 2024 and September 2025.